Good morning, children. Today we will study subtraction with borrowing. Okay? Now, who can tell me the meaning of the word borrow? I will write down the question. Okay, who knows the answer? Kian? Sorry, that is the wrong answer. Okay, Anamai knows the answer. Okay, Anamai, can you give the answer? That is correct. To borrow means to take. Okay, to borrow means to take. For example, we can use the word borrow in a sentence. Anamai borrowed a book from the library. So, this is using the word borrow in a sentence. Okay, now there are 3 rules for borrowing. I will write down the 3 rules for borrowing. Rule number 1. Always borrow from the left. Okay, always borrow from the left. Rule number 2. You cannot borrow from 0. You cannot borrow from 0. And the last rule is, if you find a 0, then go more left. Okay, if you find a 0 and you want to borrow, then you have to go more left. Okay, so these are the 3 rules of borrowing. I will repeat. Please repeat after me. Rule number 1, always borrow from the left. Rule number 2, you cannot borrow from 0. Rule number 3, if you find a 0, then go more left. Okay, did you understand, Maisha? Okay, good. No talking, otherwise I will send you to the principal office. Okay, now we will do only 4 sums, okay? 4 subtraction sums. Now please pay attention. Anamai will do the first sum. Okay, the first sum is 34 minus 19. 34 minus 19. How will we write this down? We will say 34 minus 19, and we will also write ones and tens. Okay, now can we do 4 minus 9? No, we cannot do 4 minus 9 because 4 is less than 9. So we need to borrow a 1, and we can borrow from the left hand side because the rule says always borrow from the left. Okay, so we borrow from the left. In the left we have a 3. If we borrow 1, 3 becomes 2. And now because we have borrowed, 4 will become 14. Now we will do 14 minus 9, which is equal to, correct, 5. And 2 minus 1 is equal to 1. So 34 minus 19 is equal to 15. So you should remember the first rule, always borrow from the left. Okay, now we will do the second question. Second question is 105 minus 39. How will we write this down? 105 minus 39. And we need to write ones, tens, and hundreds. Brooklyn, please stop talking. Please don't disturb the class, otherwise I'll have to send you to the principal's office. Be a good student like Anamai. Okay, now let's get back to the sum. Can we do 5 minus 9? No, we cannot do 5 minus 9. 5 is less than 9. We need to borrow to make it 15. Can we borrow from the left? No. In the left, we have a 0. And what is the second rule? You cannot borrow from 0. The second rule is you cannot borrow from 0. And what is the third rule? If you find a 0, then go more left. If you find a 0, then go more left. So we go more left and we find a 1 and we borrow from the 1. We change this 1 to a 0 and now we are borrowing here. So this 0 becomes a 10. Now we can borrow in the ones column. Okay, so we can borrow and make this 5 a 15. And because we are borrowing 1, we need to change this 10 to a 9. Okay, so first we borrow this 1, we change to a 0, and this 0 we change to a 10. And then we borrow for this 5 to make it a 15, and we change this 10 to a 9. Now we can do 15 minus 9 is equal to, correct, 6. 9 minus 3 is equal to, you are right, 6. And 0 minus 0 is equal to 0. So 105 minus 39 is equal to 66. Good job. Now the third sum. 203 minus 38. We need to write down the ones, tens, and hundreds. This is ones, this is tens, this is hundreds. Okay. Now, can we do 3 minus 8? Maisha, can we do 3 minus 8? No, we cannot do 3 minus 8. We need to do 13 minus 8. But we need to borrow. We need to borrow from the left. What is to the left of 3? Left of 3 is 0, and we cannot borrow from 0. If we find a 0, then we go one more left. What is one more left? One more left is 2. Okay. So we need to borrow from 2. If we borrow from 2, 2 becomes 1 and 0 becomes 10. Okay. Now we can borrow and make 3 13. Okay. Now we can borrow and make 3 13 because we have 10 in the left hand side. We can borrow from 10. Okay. So 3 becomes 13 and 10 becomes 9. Now we can do 13 minus 8 is equal to, who knows the answer 13 minus 8? Shivai? Correct. The answer is 5. Okay. Now who knows 9 minus 3? 9 minus 3 is equal to 6. Good job. Now 1 minus 0 is equal to 1. Okay. So now remember, how did we do this? We cannot do 3 minus 8. So we go to the left and borrow from the 0. But we cannot borrow from 0. We need to go more left. So we go to 2. We borrow from 2. So 2 becomes 1 and 0 becomes 10. And now we can borrow from 10 because 10 is not 0. So we can borrow from 10. 10 becomes 9 and 3 becomes 13. And we can do 13 minus 8. Okay. Okay. Now the last question. 1000 minus 423. Okay. We need to write down again ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. Okay. Okay. Now can we do 0 minus 3? No, we cannot do 0 minus 3. We need to borrow 1 and then do 10 minus 3. Can we get the 1 from here? No, this is a 0. We have to go left. Can we borrow from here? No, this is a 0. We have to go one more left. So we have to borrow from here. So this 1 becomes a 0 and this 0 becomes a 10. Now we can borrow from this 10, okay? We borrow from this 10 and make this a 10 and this 10 becomes a 9 because we have borrowed. Now can we borrow from this 10? Yes, we can borrow from this 10. So this 0 becomes a 10 and this 10 becomes a 9. Now we can do 10 minus 3 is equal to 7. 9 minus 2 is equal to 7. 9 minus 4 is equal to 5 and 0 minus 0 is equal to 0. So 1000 minus 423 is equal to 577. I will do this one more time so everyone understands. Okay. I will again write ones, tens, hundreds and thousands. Okay. Can we do 0 minus 3? No, we cannot do 0 minus 3. Let's try to borrow from the left. But this is a 0 and we cannot borrow from 0. So we go more left. Can we borrow from here? No, this is a 0. So we go more left. Okay, can we borrow from 1? Yes, we can borrow from 1. So we borrow from 1 and this becomes 10 and this 1 becomes 0. Okay. Now can we borrow from this 10? Yes, we can borrow from this 10. So this becomes 10 and this becomes 9. Okay. Can we borrow from this 10? Yes, we can. We can borrow from this 10. So this 0 becomes a 10 and this 10 becomes a 9. Now we can do 10 minus 3 is equal to 7. We can do 9 minus 2 is equal to 7. We can do 9 minus 4 is equal to 5. And we can do 0 minus 0 is equal to 0. Okay, good job class. Thank you.